All right, so a little note here. I'm about to do a husbandry video for Euathlus species red. This is actually my third attempt because this little guy actually keeps climbing out every single time. They're an adorable species. I have them on my list as number 2, but they could easily be number 1 for one of the most just best beginner species. Easy husbandry. They do well at room temperature, high 60s. Low 70s is fine. So your normal room temperature is going to be completely fine for them. No humidity requirements. I will say I always include a water dish. I have seen them drink. And if you overflow the water dish a little bit, I've also seen them when it gets a little bit too dry in the house during the winter, during, when the heat's on, the furnace is on. I'm going to cover this up so this guy doesn't get away. I have seen them hang out on the moist side of the enclosure. So I don't think you should spray them. I never spray mine. I do think you should provide a water dish, and if the water dish overflows or you have a moist corner, they will seem to like that. For substrate for this one, I have a mix of cocoa fiber and peat moss, I believe. That was only because when I first set this one up, I was using a lot more cocoa fiber, and I do like cocoa fiber. It tends to be a really good dry substrate. If I were to redo this again, or if I ever decide to rehouse her, I'd probably just go to straight topsoil mixed with peat, just dry again. She has the half coconut hide. That was only because I had run out of suitable cork bark at the time. Normally I use cork bark. That's basically a Jello shot cup. I bought 125 of those. I've been using them as water dishes. They work out great. If they soil the water dish, I just throw it away or recycle it. So that way I don't have to pluck out dishes and clean them all the time. It's a lot easier. They will, if you notice the enclosure, she is dug all around it. They dig and move dirt constantly. It's kind of endearing. They don't seem to have, again, we don't know what they're doing, what they're thinking. There doesn't seem to be any method to the madness. She just likes to move dirt around. She's never burrowed, never made a burrow, doesn't use her hide, but she will, when the mood strikes her, dig. Pretty good eaters. They will fast, like some of the other Chilean species, like the G. porteri or G. rosea. That is one of the things that would keep this one maybe from being a number 1 best beginner species. It tends to freak out keepers, new and old, when their spiders don't eat. We're used to dogs and cats and hamsters and whatever else you may have that have to be fed every day. So when one of our animals decides it's not going to eat for a couple months, it tends to freak us out. And that's one thing that they will do. As slings, they also start off very, very tiny, and it is a slow-growing species. So I've heard folks that get the little slings, and within, they think they're going to have a big hairy spider, and within a year they've just got a tiny sling. So keep that in mind if you do find slings, and I do believe there are some people in the U.S. that are breeding them right now. It's going to take a while before you have this cute little spider. Now, I use the word cute. I'm a realistic human being. I understand that most folks out there do not find tarantulas cute at all. However, if there's ever a tarantula that you would refer to as being cute or adorable, this is the one. You can see the little girl just wants to get out of here. If I were the type to handle my spiders, and I won't lie, I don't handle spiders usually, but this is the one that I've ended up handling maybe a dozen times, only because every time I open the enclosure to do maintenance or drop food in, she kind of just wanders on out, and usually it's just easier to take my hand and kind of get her on my hand and put her back in. However, keep in mind they can move very, very fast when spooked. One of the times it was on my hand, it caught a breeze or something, and it took off, and it was quite quick and up about halfway up my arm before I could even blink. So that's one of the reasons I don't handle. You don't ever want to harm the spider or get yourself bit. But you can see right now, if I were to open this up, and I'll open it up right at the end of the video, she would climb right on out, have no problem with it, and it's almost like they're not afraid of it. She knows I'm a human. When I stick my hand there, or she knows I'm a much bigger animal than her. So when I stick my hand there and she climbs onto it, it's not like she thinks it's substrate or a branch or something. She knows it, and she just seems content to sometimes curl right up in my hand, and she'll just kind of tuck up and sit there. It's adorable. But again, I don't really usually handle. This is just the one I sometimes make an exception with, and it's not usually because I think she wants my attention or anything. She just kind of climbs out in my hand. So again, no humidity requirements. You'll see the cage here is a modified Sterilite container. I believe Walmart still carries these. You can find them online. I love them personally because they're stackable. Probably about 7 by 7 by 11 or so. Decent size enclosure. This is about all the room she needs. I had her in a bigger enclosure before I actually moved her because she was just kind of swimming in it, and they do wander a lot. And although I've heard some people like, oh good, they can get some exercise, it's not really something they need. So this one, she seems to be a little more secure, a little happier, and has been eating well in. I'm going to take the cover off in a minute. But again, this is by far one of the top beginner species tarantulas. Just an adorable little, I heard them referred to as dwarf species. They do get 3.5, 4 inches long. It's a little larger than a normal dwarf, but it is a very small species. Very calm species overall, good eater, easy to keep, just fantastic little animal. So let's see if she, yep, and here she comes. This is the Euathlus species red. There's that little, I believe the common name is something like fire hiney or something. I can never remember common names, but it's because of that little red on her butt there. There's a good shot of her. Gorgeous little girl. So if you can find one, especially a larger specimen, grab them up, because with Chile closing the borders, they will be a little more difficult to come by. I know some folks do breed them, but by the time those slings get to be these cute little spiders, you'll probably be quite a few years older. Euathlus species red. Oh, and before I forget, feeding. I usually do 1 or 2 medium crickets. They tend to appreciate the medium-sized crickets. They could eat a large one, don't get me wrong, but this seems to be one that will pounce on the smaller prey. So I do give 1 or 2 medium crickets a week.